Cherry. Great to speak to you today.
Hi, Fiona. Lovely to be here. Really
Thanks for
thrilled. Thanks for having
great.
me.
Thanks for joining me. So, Cherry, you've had a really interesting career to date, haven't you? So I'm just wondering, can you tell me how you got into marketing in the first place?
Well, I think earlier on, from a young age, I always knew that I wanted to get into marketing. I think that's because I've always loved great ads. I quite vividly remember that when I was younger, like growing up, when I went to the cinema, I would never want to miss an ad before the film.
Right.
And I also quite happily sit through all of the advert breaks on TV as well. So I guess I always knew that I wanted to work in the creative industry. So when
Mm.
I went to university, I did a marketing degree, and it all just went on from there.
Oh, that's really interesting because actually I speak to a lot of people who kind of fell into marketing by accident. So it's really nice to speak to someone who intentionally set out to go into that profession.
Yeah, I don't think there are a lot of people like me in marketing.
No,
Yeah.
no. So what's your career look like so far? Where have you worked? Have you had any sort of roles that have shaped your career?
Yeah, a few actually. So I think when I graduated from university from my marketing degree, my dream was to work in ad agencies and to make kind of sexy, glamorous ad campaigns. So I did that for several years, probably during the first half of my career to date. Worked in a few different creative agencies in London, and I was lucky enough to have worked on some really fabulous brands, such as Orange in the old days, which then became EE,
Oh,
and I also
wow.
worked on Prony Natural Zero on their global account and helped them to launch the brand globally in all of
Amazing.
the key markets. So actually, I'm still really proud of some of the work I did agency side, even on this day.
Mm, I bet you learnt a lot there.
I learned so much, like really fast paced, the ad production process. And I think now I'm client side, but I think I'm still benefiting from having worked on the agency side.
A good grounding, actually, yeah.
Definitely. But I remember, I think after several years, I really enjoyed my agency side roles, but I remember saying to myself, I'm not sure if I want to work in agencies forever, actually. And I was really keen to actually to be in the driving seat rather than just reacting to briefs and feedback.
Yeah.
And I wanted to actually make some strategic decisions to drive a brand forward. So I had the itch to jump client side.
Right.
So I did that. It wasn't easy. It actually took a while,
Mm,
but I made the jump. And my first client side role was actually at Ladbrokes
right.
at a time when I knew nothing about betting and gaming. No idea how I got that job. But I'm really glad I did because I had a really fun few years there. Worked on some really high budget, high profile, big campaigns, really fast paced and high volume in a competitive environment. So again, learned a lot there. Worked with some amazing sporting stars. And I had two really great bosses. So the
That makes
marketing
a big
director.
difference, doesn't it?
Exactly,
Yeah.
definitely. The marketing director there and the CMO at the time, they really trusted me and empowered me in my role.
Mm,
So I think I am still really grateful that I had that opportunity there.
yeah. And did gambling, because that sort of whole online gambling piece really took off, didn't it? Was
Yeah,
that around the
exactly.
time that you were working in that sector?
Yeah, so one of my kind of big jobs there is to transition Ladbrokes and change the perception of Ladbrokes from just being a traditional old-fashioned gambling kind of shop on the
Mm,
high street to being a more modern kind of digital brand.
yeah, I remember that transition. I remember seeing it happening. I mean, I'm not a gambler. I don't really gamble at all, but I
Neither.
remember seeing that happening in the marketplace and thinking, wow, this is really moving on from, you know, like you say, old man on the high street to young people at home kind of gambling for fun.
Yeah. So I think as you can imagine, brand and advertising really played a key role there. We did a massive kind of brand
Mm,
refresh project to really try to move the brand on, to modernize the brand and really change people's perception and attract more
Yeah.
modern and younger betters. So some really great pieces of work there.
Yeah. And what happened after that? Where did you go after that?
And then after that, I moved to eBay. So a global brand. I
Mm.
helped eBay to actually launch their first brand about the light campaign in the UK.
Oh, wow.
Because actually, for 20 years, eBay was a brand that did no brand building activity.
Yeah.
Still can't believe it. And to a point that they realized actually their brand consideration was dropping,
Yeah.
especially compared to Amazon. And Amazon was really leading the way.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
yeah, so that was the point that they decided to actually do some brand building activities.
And you
So
were heavily involved in that.
I was very heavily involved. That played a key role. And then after that, I moved on to the banking industry, into the banking
Okay.
industry. I joined the NatWest Group and I worked for the signature brand NatWest, led their brand and advertising for a few years.
Right.
And then in my last year, I moved on to Coutts, who is also
Okay.
part of the NatWest Group,
Mm.
if you didn't know.
Yeah, no, I do. Yeah, the private banking arm, yeah.
Exactly. Actually, not many people realize that.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah,
prestigious, isn't it? And NatWest is such a high street brand. But
exactly.
yeah, my mum worked for NatWest for many years, so I know it really
Uh,
well.
Yeah, really nice company as well. A great brand
Yeah.
to work for.
Yeah.
And Coutts as well. So I helped Coutts to launch their very first brand campaign in 40 years,
Wow.
which was again another great piece of work. So I think it
Yeah.
was all going really well for me there. But I remember having another kind of career pivoting moment there because I guess at that point I realized I was starting to feel really comfortable in my role.
Okay. Yeah, not
Yeah,
challenging
more
enough.
challenging because I had been doing kind of writing brand strategy and making big campaigns for brands, both agency side and
Mm.
client side for a number of years now. And I just felt really comfortable. And then
Mm.
I remember thinking to myself, I'm not actually sure where my next role is. And maybe I need to try something completely different and really push myself outside my comfort zone.
Yeah. What level had you reached at this point?
It was a head of lead
Right.
level.
Right.
Yeah.
And you didn't fancy sort of taking that next step, or were you just thinking of something completely different? It just didn't make sense to go up in a linear fashion.
I think first of all, I think in an organization, in a big organization, the opportunity is not always there.
Yeah.
So I guess unless you boss leaves, you never really have that
Mm.
linear progression opportunity. And sometimes there are sideways opportunities you can take, but the time I think we're also and the time we're in the middle of COVID as well.
Uh,
So there
yeah.
wasn't really that much around.
Yeah. So what did you do? What did you decide to do at that point?
So I was thinking at that point, wouldn't that be fun if I actually took all the experience I gained from big brands into a smaller brand and actually help smaller brand to scale up and really build something from the ground up. I
Mm.
thought that could be quite exciting and I can learn some really different skills working in a
Yeah.
smaller environment. And again, there wasn't that much out there. So I
Mm.
left NatWest and I started my own company. So I did freelancing and consultancy for a year, working in smaller scale up businesses,
Yeah.
which was really fun. It's something I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
But I think what frustrated me doing freelancing is that I'd go in and do a project, but I never see anything end to end.
Right.
So I never know what impact I actually made or my
Yeah.
work actually made.
Yeah.
So I guess it was really good to try it out, but I never really felt that fulfilled
Yeah.
because of it. And then I got a call from Workspace Group, which is where I'm currently at.
So that's a B2B business. So
That is a
you,
B2B
yeah, so
business.
you've kind of taken all that B2C knowledge and you've taken that into a B2B environment now. So how's that working out?
It's working out really well, actually, to my surprise, because I remember when I first got the call from the headhunter and they said, "Oh, it's a B2B marketing role." And I
Mm,
was thinking, I don't really want to do that. I'm a
yeah,
B2C marketeer. So
yeah,
I actually said no straight away. But then the headhunter said, "Oh, just have a conversation. There's nothing to lose."
yeah,
And they're quite good like that. They're like, you really get on with the your boss there, you get on with the people. It's a great
yeah,
company, great culture. Just go have a conversation. So I thought,
yeah.
okay, I will have a conversation. And then I met my current boss there in the interview, and I actually said to him, I'm not a B2B marketeer. I knew nothing about B2B marketing. And
Mm,
he said to me, I'm not looking for a B2B marketeer. I'm looking for someone who can come in, lead the team, and help me build the brand
yeah,
because there's a real opportunity in the sector. And then later on, I realized actually, because if you haven't heard of Workspace Group, we are a flexible office provider in London,
yeah,
and we're actually a FTSE 250 company. We're quite established as a
yeah.
business. We've been around for 40 years. We have over 4,000 amazing customers, really
Wow.
bright, creative, and innovative small businesses in London.
Right.
We have over 60 buildings all across London. So
Wow.
we're actually established business, but as a
Yeah.
brand, we're still at this scale up stage.
Yeah.
Because no one's heard of us. There's a real brand awareness challenge.
Yeah. It hasn't got the sort of WeWork brand name.
Reaches,
Yeah.
WeWork, exactly. And even for the very few people who might have heard of us, they just think we're another WeWork or another Regis. So there's a
Yeah.
real lack of brand understanding there because we're
Yeah.
actually quite different. We
Yeah.
have much more personality and character than them, and our offering is quite different as well.
Right. So do you target a
So
more creative audience, a more
yeah,
creative
we
user?
do. Yeah. I think from a performance marketing perspective, we target more creative industries, but I think in reality, we welcome everyone. But I think the mindset we're targeting is more kind of ambitious, innovative, creative
Right.
types
And
of businesses.
so what are you doing? I know you're working on a big brand campaign currently. So do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so that's really exciting. So I'm working on the next big brand campaign for Workspace Group to really help us overcome these brand challenges I just talked about. But I think, as with any campaigns, whether you work in B2B or B2C, it would always start from a really clear and deep customer insight.
Yeah.
And then you build a compelling and strong brand proposition around that insight. So for us, it's about really deeply understanding what our customers love about us,
Yeah.
what they really value from what we're providing to them, and what we're doing better from compared to our competition that they truly value from us.
Yeah.
So I think if you're a Mark Risen fan, you probably hear him talking a lot about the three C's,
Yeah.
which is exactly what we did. So really finding out kind of the company, what your company provides, the customer, what your customers love about you, the
Yeah.
competition, what are you doing better than your competition,
Yeah.
and to really find kind of the sweet spot in the middle of the three C's
Yeah. So
to get
lots and
your
lots of interviews and customer research.
lots of research,
Mm,
interviews, lots of surveys and phone calls trying to understand our customers. So
yeah.
that's been really, really helpful.
I'll bet. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
bet that your agency side expertise is just really coming into play here.
Yeah, so it's actually really helped having worked agency side
Mm,
to understand kind of how you build a relationship with them in the
yeah.
most effective way. So you can motivate them and partner with them really to do their best work.
Yeah. And I bet,
Yeah.
do you find it easier to identify a good agency now, having been in an agency environment?
Uh, I think so. I think there are some boxes I'd always like to tick off. Because I think we went through actually an agency pitch process before
Right.
this campaign earlier this year. And what I look for usually in an agency is that aligned value with your organization. So
Yeah.
the agency we selected is called And Rising, really brilliant. And their customers actually really similar to our customers.
Right.
They work with a lot of startups and scale ups as well in the
Right.
the creative and and innovative industries.
Right.
So again, they understand our customers really well because they're their clients too.
Super useful. Yeah.
Exactly. So that aligned value is really, really important.
Yeah.
And I think working with the agency as well, it's really important to build that trust earlier on with them to
Yeah.
really build that trusting partnership. So for me, I think trust for me is built upon kind of reliability, credibility, and intimacy. And reliability is all about you being a client, really having a really clear line of communication with your agencies to manage their expectations, keeping your promises, always doing what you said you were going to do.
Yeah.
And credibility is about showing you know your stuff as a marketeer, because we all know that agencies deal with a lot of bad clients and bad briefs. So I think
Yeah.
showing your credibility as a marketeer early on really helps. Show that you really understand your business, your priorities and your challenges. Show them that you can write a good brief to
Yeah.
help them do their best work, and you can give constructive feedback to help them improve the work that I
Yeah.
found really useful. And then intimacy, as we all know, is about building that strong personal relationship with your day-to-day team. Because I
Yeah.
think knowing your agency team deeply and personally will help your work relationships as well. So you can challenge each other
Yeah.
better and have more open and honest conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I worked agency side really early on in my career, and I remember kind of getting bad briefs and then delivering proposals that weren't matching a brief because the brief wasn't clear, or just getting feedback like, I don't like it.
Exactly. I don't like this color.
I don't like it.
I
Yeah,
just
but
don't like it.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's impossible to work with that, isn't it?
exactly.
Yeah. So, just talking about results, but also creative effectiveness. So, whether you're doing it in-house or whether you're working with an agency, how do you balance the creative element with the performance element, and how do you measure that?
So it's kind of the long and short,
Mm,
which is always tricky. And I think it's a constant balancing act in any business, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah. And I think if I say to you, I had it completely nailed, I'd be lying. But hopefully, I think we're doing a few things right, that we're heading in the right direction.
yeah,
So I think for me, the first thing you need to do is to get really strong with your short first. So be really strong with your performance marketing.
yeah,
So you can harvest your demand really efficiently and cost effectively and show really strong short-term results, because
yeah.
you can't really do the long if you can't survive the short.
No, true. If the
So that's
markers aren't there, it's there's no point
exactly,
in pursuing it. Mm,
yeah. So I think that's really important. Get that right. And for the long term brand building, I think there's a lot of education that you need to do with your internal stakeholders, your CFO,
yeah,
your CEO, the entire executive team, and your board members. Um, and you can do that by constantly sharing kind of research insights, industry reports,
yeah,
case studies, and benchmarks with them,
yeah,
because the education is not going to be done overnight. So you need to do that over time. And hopefully over time, by by sharing these different things, it will help your stakeholders to appreciate the value of brand building more. And I think if you have started brand building, even on a smaller scale, you need to constantly share good news, wins and successes with your entire kind of executive team, whether it's more direct traffic, more shelf search, or even more social buzz out there. I think the more they see it,
Mm.
the more it will help you to do more and convince them that you should scale things up because they're doing your brand building activities are doing good things for your business.
Yeah, that's right. It's kind of like setting out those early markers, those performance indicators, if you like.
Indicators. Yeah,
Yeah, so
exactly.
you
Right
might not have
direction.
the exact results, but you've got the indicators that this is going to be a success or that it's moving in
Exactly.
the right direction. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think the last thing is all about measurement. So having a really clear measurement framework for your long and for your short, and then aligning your stakeholders around your measurement framework is really important. So you can all
Mm,
understand in the same language what the success indicators, the metrics, and the measures look like for your long activities and your short activities.
yeah.
Because the tension is never going to go away, but building alignment in the measurement area will really help with your conversations going forward.
Yeah, and I think it's important that you drive that rather than allowing, say, the board to give you the indicators. You actually drive what those indicators are, what that looks like, because you
Absolutely.
know how that campaign is panning out and you know what that's going to look like. Whereas you can often be given some markers and asked to performance metrics and markers that aren't actually relevant.
Exactly. I think the marketing team definitely need to drive that.
Yeah.
And ideally, you build that with the finance team as well to make sure you have that aligned language between the two teams, which,
Yeah.
yeah, which has really helped me in the past.
Yeah. So, in terms of kind of that measurement framework, what does your data tech stack look like for measurement? I mean, have you got some preferred kind of tools that you would use to uh, measure performance?
I think for performance marketing, so we measure performance marketing and then brand building activities quite differently.
Yeah.
For performance marketing, it's much more straightforward, as we all
Yeah.
know. So it's attribution modeling and looking at kind of the day-to-day numbers and clicks, etc., the
Yeah.
inquiries we're driving. And for brand building, it's a bit more complicated.
Yeah.
So in the framework I've built for brand, I've allowed kind of three tiers of metrics. So the first tier is our brand metrics from the brand tracking data, and
Yeah.
that's our North Star for the brand building activities. And if you're able to quantify the commercial opportunities of improving and growing your brand metrics, you have a much better opportunity to convince your finance team that this is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So this is what I've done for my measurement framework. But I think what we need to be careful of is brand metrics. They don't grow quickly. It
Yeah.
takes time to ship them. So we have annual targets rather than weekly or quarterly targets.
Yeah.
And I'm quite careful not to share those widely
Right.
too frequently because you can
Mm,
send the wrong message to people if they don't shift.
yeah.
But I think in the interim, you need to get people comfortable that you're heading in the right direction. So that's where the second tier of metrics come in. So these are more the, the digital lead indicators. So for us, we look at CPE, which is cost per inquiry, which in other businesses you might call it cost per acquisition,
Yeah.
CPA, because as your brand grows and your brand getting stronger, your acquisition should become more efficient.
Yeah.
So your CPE or CPA should go down. So we track that.
Yeah.
And we also look at our shelf search. So again, that's a good indicator of your brand strength if more people are looking for your brand versus your competitors.
Yeah.
And another metric I look at is our inquiry to viewing conversion rate,
Okay.
because arguably, if your customers are already familiar with you, and warm up to your brand when they come to inquire, it should be more easily for you to convert them into viewings.
Yeah.
So again, we look at that as well as a success indicator.
Right.
So those are kind of the medium term indicators we track month to month and quarter on quarter, and
Yeah.
we report that to the exec team.
Yeah. You'd
And then
expect those all to be moving in a positive direction. And I mean, just what would you do if they weren't looking as positive or you'd taken a dip one quarter?
I think you need to understand why that happens, because
Mm,
sometimes even if you're spending on brand, some other things can happen. Like for example, your competitor could be heavily spending that quarter.
yeah.
That that means you could be losing share of voice compared to them, which could
Yeah.
cause a drop in your kind of success indicators or digital metrics. And
Yeah.
so I think it's about really working with your agencies to understand why why that happened, what caused the change or the job, and then manage
Mm,
your stakeholder expectations accordingly.
yeah.
Which is why we call them indicators. They're not hard metrics on
Yeah.
brands.
Yeah. And how do you
Being
feel about messaging? Are you constantly tweaking your messaging according? I mean, obviously you've got the brand campaign coming out. Have you done a full messaging refresh around that?
we have in a way, I think our core message, our 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 core brand message hasn't changed because we launched the brand platform actually last year, just when I joined. And we know how important consistency is as a
Yeah.
brand. You shouldn't chop and change all the
Mm,
time. So I have been really keen not to change that brand
yeah.
platform because it was built on lots of research, lots of insights. We know it's right.
Yeah.
And what we're doing this year with the brand campaign is to kind of elevate it and bring it to life in a new and fresh and different way that we know will resonate better
Yeah.
with our customers through storytelling. So it's
Yeah.
not about changing the message, but
Mm,
kind of refresh and elevate the way you tell the story, rather, if that
yeah.
makes sense. And
Yeah. Yeah.
what I'm also in the process of doing to help with the measurement is to build out a econometrics model for the brand for next
Right.
year to really help us measure the incrementality of brand activities and what incremental difference brand is making. Because
Mm,
I think truly without that, you would never convince your
mm,
business in a real way that brand activities are always worthwhile.
yeah.
Because I think even though all of our board members and the executive team, they're all behind brand building. Whenever there's a short-term problem, brand is always the first
Okay.
discretionary budget you cut. So I think it will be really helpful to help them understand the true incrementality and the commercial value of brand building and really bring our finance team on the journey as well to work with them to build that model, which
Yeah.
I'm hoping will really help us.
Yeah, that's interesting. Um, so I guess I can't sort of have a conversation with you without talking about the AI aspect of marketing nowadays, because
The
it's
hot
everywhere.
topic.
Hot
It's a hot
topic.
topic for sure.
Super interesting. What are you doing with AI, and are you implementing it into your sort of daily life and your team's life?
We're exploring lots of ways to use AI to help us improve kind of our projects and our day-to-day workflow.
Yeah.
And even with our next brand campaign, because as I said before, we we selected a new agency and they are heavily embracing AI as well in their
Right.
creative process. So we actually worked with them using AI to create our first brand jingle,
Oh,
which has
wow.
been a really fun process.
Awesome.
Yeah, because I think I remember trying to create brand jingles before in my past life, before the world of AI. And it was really expensive, really
Yeah.
time consuming, and it was such a painful process.
Mm,
But with Anne Rising, our new agency, I remember during their pitch presentation, they came in and presented 7 or 8 different types of jingles,
right. Okay. Even in the
which was
pitch.
even in the pitch,
Mm,
exactly. And we give some feedback, and then they came back with 7 different versions the next day.
fantastic. Yeah.
So we're just able to work together to iterate really quickly with
Yeah.
AI and a fraction of the cost I used to pay. So it's been so
Yeah.
valuable.
Yeah. I actually used Suno to make my podcast intro music. So, and
Oh,
it took, I
really?
don't know, 10 minutes. It was
So
brilliant.
quick, isn't it? It's so
So
brilliant.
quick. Yeah. And you can just
Yeah.
change the style. It's so clever, isn't it?
I'm making my own music with the AI tool now.
Yeah.
It's quite addictive.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? I know. You have an idea and it just comes to life immediately. So
Yeah,
clever. I
yeah,
absolutely love the way that we've got all this power in our fingertips now.
definitely. It just makes your job a lot easier and make the
It
process a
does.
lot quicker.
Yeah, and I know people talk about AI kind of stifling creativity or making things bland, but actually, I feel like it's given me tools to be more creative because I've got the ideas and now I can execute the ideas without any external help. So, like
Yeah,
music, I wouldn't have been able to make music before. I didn't have the equipment, I didn't have the know-how. But now I can have an idea and I can make a piece of music. It's the same with video, same with imagery. I just find it fascinating.
yeah. I think AI definitely plays a role in the creative process. I think at this stage, I don't think AI is going to replace human
No.
creativity because it has its limitations.
Yeah.
And if you want to create a piece of really authentic, original, emotional music to pull people's
Yeah.
heartstrings, I don't think AI can do that.
No.
But for brand jingles and for kind of lower level
Mm,
music tracks or even images, I think AI can do a much better job than the likes of library tracks or stock imagery.
yeah. Agreed. I met someone a while ago who'd completely rebranded their business using AI, and every brand image, every short video, everything on the website was AI created, and
That's
they yeah
amazing.
managed to build a whole brand theme that they could just change at a minute's notice, which I thought was
Yeah.
really clever. I haven't got to grips with image creators like Midjourney that cleverly yet, but I would like to kind of dig deeper into the image creation side. It's not.
Yeah, there's a lot AI can do actually
Mm,
from a content creation and image creation perspective.
yeah,
There's also a really cool tool, I can't remember the name of it, which turns static imagery into moving images.
yeah. Is it Runway?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. It's
I had
that.
a play around with Runway. It is very cool actually, but I think at the moment you can only do 10 to 15 seconds,
Mm.
which would be great for an ad or for a short kind of GIF or
For social as well,
for
which is what
socials.
we're
Perfect.
exploring, is
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
Yeah, saves so much time.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
Mm.
Yeah, it's quite fun, isn't it? And then I
Yeah.
think, if you can use that output and put it together with some music or with some voice over, some AI voice, the possibilities are really huge, aren't they?
Yeah, the potential is huge.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
think we also should remember that AI won't always give you that finished product, the
yeah,
perfect answer. And but what it can give you is a really strong starting point and loads of ideas, which
yeah.
you can then refine and evolve, which I think we just need to be really clear and be really kind of manage people's expectations on when rolling out AI in your team and in your business?
Yeah, would that be your core piece of advice for other marketing leaders if they were trying to or thinking about implementing AI?
I think so. I think it's a really important tip. I would say, because you don't want someone to try an AI tool, doesn't really get the perfect answer and just go, oh, it's not worth my while.
Yeah.
But actually, if you can work with the AI, really use it as a tool to help you, the potential is huge. Even with our
Mm,
brand jingle, for example, the AI give us a really strong piece of jingle, but the vocal behind kind of the instrumentals was had American accent and we're a
right.
London brand. So
Mm,
we had to re-record the vocals in a
yeah.
human way, but it really helped us to produce that piece of work much faster and much more cheaply, even though it
Yeah.
didn't give us the finished product.
And actually, maybe you could look at using multiple tools. So you could use the music generator and then you could use a voiceover generator to put those two together. In an ideal world, everything would be done in one platform. But actually, I think
But it's never the way.
it's never the way. And I'm quickly learning that, even editing these videos, I'm learning that Riverside, which we're using now, that has some AI tools so you can snip and create snippets, but then the full edit, I would prefer to do that in a different tool, which is Descript, which has a load more AI features. So it's kind of pulling everything together and just using the right tool for the right job, I think is quite important rather than
That's
just
really
thinking,
important. Yeah.
yeah,
Because I think we have so many AI tools out there
oh,
now, and different tools have their pros and cons. They're all good for
yeah,
different things. So rather than putting all your eggs in one basket, really understand different
yeah,
tools, what they can do, and then pick the right ones for your current task.
yeah,
I think that
exactly.
that would be really important.
Yeah. Where do you think it's going? Where do you think this AI journey for marketers is heading? What do you think is the next kind of big thing or the next development?
I think it's just going to keep evolving, isn't it?
Mm,
I think I don't think AI is going to change the role of marketing personally. I don't think the key principles and the strategic role of marketing is going to change. But I think AI will give us a lot more tools and better tools for us to do our jobs much faster,
yeah.
much more cost effectively, and to a higher quality. I think it's probably similar to when digital and social became a shiny thing in marketing. It didn't really change marketing, but it did give us more platforms
Yeah.
for us to reach our audiences more effectively. And I think it's a similar thing with AI.
Yeah, it's more about the execution. Like you say, the principles stay the same and the process stays the same, but you actually execute using AI, which
Yeah,
makes it faster, more accessible, more cost effective, and
exactly.
actually it's more scalable, I think.
Definitely much more scalable. And I think one thing we probably should all keep an eye on is that I do think in the future people are going to increasingly use AI for product recommendations. So as a marketeer, we don't only need to market our brands and products to the end users, we
Mm,
also need to learn how we can better market them to AI.
yeah.
And I don't know what that looks like yet, but I just think it's a really interesting area to watch.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's a little bit like this new category people are talking about, which is like AI based search. So it's
Mm.
not SEO, it's AI SEO. Um,
AI optimization,
that's
AIO
right.
maybe.
Yeah, and I think that is becoming a whole category in itself. So learning how to get your brand positively referenced in AI platforms is really important. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've already started feeding what I want AI to talk about the brand, how I
Oh,
want it.
really?
Yeah, I have.
Ah,
Yeah. I
that's
repeat the
clever.
same phrases and I add lots of documentation to it just so that we pop up in a favorable way. Um, so yeah, I think that will become a more defined role, if you like.
I
Um,
agree. Yeah, lots
mm,
of potential in that area for sure.
yeah. And then, so just final sort of piece of advice. So, if you were wanting to give a piece of advice to somebody who was looking to start a marketing career, what would that be? What would you say to them?
I think for me, I think when we work in marketing, when we are looking for the next role, it's really easy to want to chase the shiny things, like a shiny brand, a brand name, a logo, a shiny
Mm,
title, or a big company, the size of the budget. But actually, sometimes it's more important to chase the experience and what you actually want to learn and be really clear on what experience and skills you actually need to help you move forward and go for the experience and the skills. And sometimes it might require you to go from a bigger company to a smaller one or move
mm,
sideways before you can move up because we all know careers are not always linear.
yeah,
They can be quite squiggly and that's fine. And I think to really understand that for young marketeers could be very important because I didn't completely understand that when I was younger. And
yes,
I
I
think just
agree.
from my experience going from the NetWest group to Workspace Group, from going from a large organization of over 90,000 people to a much
Mm,
smaller brand of under 500 people. On paper, sometimes it can feel like I'm trading down because of the size of the team and the budget. But actually, the learning I had in the last 18 months just has been extraordinary. I have never been so close to the business and the commercial operations. Now I really understand how the business makes money, how we're driving and building shareholder values, how we shift our brand perception in the world for investors, which I never really understood before,
yeah,
and really having a growth mindset and a enterprise mindset to understand how in a smaller organization, how you get things done, how you hustle your way, how you nudge things forward in a really entrepreneurial way, I think has been really valuable.
yeah,
And I'm also much closer to my customers now.
yes, yeah,
Yeah, because I don't have a big inside team or big inside budget. So I have to find ways, entrepreneurial
yeah,
ways to get really close to my customers. And we're in the same buildings with them. So I can watch them every day. I can get up and
yeah,
talk to them. So I feel like now I can much better represent my customers in the business, which has been brilliant. So I think all of this experience and learnings working in a smaller business because your role is a lot broader
yeah.
really helped me to become more rounded and more T-shaped as a marketeer rather than trying to reach the top of the eye.
Yeah, that is brilliant advice. And now that you've got the big brand experience, the agency experience, the smaller B2B, more focused experience, you're unstoppable, really, aren't you? You've got that whole kind of gamut of
It's very
experience.
flattering.
Yeah, no, I mean, what a brilliant career you've had. It's
Oh,
amazing.
thank you. Yeah,
Yeah, sounds
thank you.
amazing. Thank you so much for talking to me. It's been
No
really, really
problem.
interesting, and we will
It's
have to
been a
check in
pleasure.
again.
Yeah, that'll be
Great.
great. That's great. Thanks for having me again.
Thanks, Cherry. It's been
Thanks,
great.
Fiona.
Talk to you soon.
Talk soon.
Bye.